Today on Passion for Food, we're going to make the most delicious vegetable lasagna. And I'll share a little trick that'll make it so that we never have to boil another lasagna noodle again. And if you're skeptical that this could be just as tasty as a traditional lasagna, well, don't worry, I guarantee it's impossible not to love this. Let's go ahead and get started here. And first up, of course, is our veggies. I like to use spinach, carrots, broccoli, and onions for this. And for the spinach, I do like just to cut off these stem ends. Frozen spinach would be fine here, by the way. So we're just going to throw out those stems. And next up is our carrots. And I'm just going to go ahead and slap chop the ends off of those. We want fairly small pieces of carrot. So we're going to go ahead and julienne this before we cut it into pieces. This might take a couple of slap chops. Basically, we're just going to chop these in half 3 or 4 times until they're nice and thin. People don't want big hunks of carrot in their lasagna. And this is about right. And then we'll just give these one final chop. And I guess you could say that these carrots have gotten themselves into a dicey situation. And next up here is our broccoli. And basically, we just want the floret portion of this. So I'm going to go ahead and just slice off that root end. We can just go ahead and get rid of that, but these florets are still way too big, so we just want to go ahead and give that one more rough chop. You can see the kind of final size we're looking for here. I think the technical term is fairly small. And finally, we have our onion. Now, of course, we do want to take just a moment and peel that. And if you're wondering why we're hand chopping all of this, well, my food processor went on strike. Okay, now that we have all of our vegetables prepared, it's time to make the sauce for our vegetable lasagna. We're going to be making a garlic bechamel sauce, and to get that started, we need half a cup of melted butter. Now, I know that is a lot of butter, but hey, it's going to be a big pan of lasagna too, so don't worry about that. Once our butter is most of the way melted, we're going to go ahead and add a half a cup of flour. Yes, that's equal parts flour and butter. What we're doing here is creating something called a roux, which is going to help thicken our white sauce. And we don't need to cook this very long, just a minute or two to get rid of that raw flour taste. We're definitely not looking to develop any color on our roux. Once that's had a minute or two to cook, I'm going to go ahead and crush in a couple of cloves of garlic. And I'm also going to take this opportunity to season with about a teaspoon of salt and cracked black pepper to taste. And now it's time to add our liquids, consisting of 4 cups of milk and 1 cup of water. You could definitely use 5 cups of milk. I added the extra cup of water just to counteract the evaporation we're going to get during cooking. And we want to stir this as it comes back up to a simmer, and this would be a very good time to switch to a whisk. You could keep going with the spoon, I suppose, but that's definitely some whiskey business. Once this comes up to a simmer for us, it's going to be beautifully thick, so let's go ahead and cut the heat off, and this is also when we want to go ahead and taste for seasoning. Now keep in mind, this is actually going to be the primary seasoning for our lasagna, so we actually want this to be slightly saltier than we normally would. That salt is going to diffuse throughout the entire dish. This actually did need just a touch more salt, and if you wanted to add just a little bit of MSG, this would be an excellent time to do that. But now let's go ahead and assemble our vegetable lasagna. We want to start with a good layer of sauce on the bottom of our pan. Definitely don't skimp on this first layer of sauce, or you risk getting some crunchy lasagna noodles on the bottom, and nobody likes crunchy lasagna noodles. Well, except for my wife. Anyway, once we've gotten nice and saucy, we just want to go ahead and lay in our uncooked lasagna noodles. Now, these aren't the oven-ready lasagna noodles. These are just regular uncooked lasagna noodles. Once we get done layering, I'll share the trick that allows us to do this without pre-cooking these. Fun fact, those oven-ready lasagna noodles are mostly just thinner. Supposedly they've been pre-cooked and then dried, but they're still going to have to absorb the same amount of water by weight, so I don't really see that making much of a difference. Anyway, at this point, we just want to layer in about a quarter of our veggies, our spinach, carrots, broccoli, and onions. And don't worry, I haven't forgotten the cheese. We are going to add some shredded Parmesan cheese, about an ounce or so per layer. We're also going to add 2 or 3 ounces of mozzarella cheese. And now we simply go back to step 1 and repeat the whole process until we're all out of lasagna noodles. So we're just going to add a bunch of sauce, add our noodles, add our vegetable layers and cheese, and repeat. While we do that, have you heard the bad news about the inventor of lasagna? Yeah, they pasta away. Anyway, cheesy jokes aside, we do have one final addition here, and that is a half a cup of buttered breadcrumbs. This is simply half a cup of regular breadcrumbs mixed with 2.5 tablespoons of melted butter. Yeah, that's right, I figured out a way to put more butter into this. Now you might be tempted to skip these, but...
No, no, no!
Yeah, I wouldn't. Alright, now let's talk for just a moment about how we're going to be able to use these lasagna noodles without cooking them. You see, I crunched the numbers on this, and I discovered that lasagna noodles tend to absorb 1.1 to 1.4 times their weight in water when they're cooked. So that means to achieve the perfect moisture level in our finished lasagna, we need to add about 1.2 pounds of water per 1 pound of lasagna noodles. Now I used a full pound of lasagna noodles here, so that equates to about 2 1/4 cup of extra water we need to add. Just skip that part if you pre-boiled your lasagna noodles. Now we want to tightly cover this in foil, but it helps a lot if we just lightly oil the one side of our foil. That'll prevent it from sticking to our lovely buttered breadcrumbs later on. This is going to cook for 50 minutes at 400 degrees, at which point we're going to go ahead and very carefully remove the foil and cook for an additional 10 minutes. At which point it's time to pull this out, but we do need to let this sit and rest for at least 5 or 10 minutes. But once it has, we can go ahead and cut ourselves a slice of the most delicious vegetable lasagna. I know you might be skeptical, I was, but you definitely need to give this a try. Me and my wife love this as much, if not more, than a traditional lasagna. Those flavors all work great together, and that little bit of sweetness from the carrots is just perfect. I really hope you've enjoyed today's episode as much as I enjoyed this lasagna. If you have, give me a thumbs up below, and don't forget to subscribe and hit that little bell so you don't miss our future recipes. And check out one of our other great videos playing on the screen now. This has been Graham with Passion for Food.